go live. Let's get going here with our live stream for this beautiful Monday afternoon. Welcome everyone. We're going to be talking about how to contribute your images to Adobe Stock and what you might want to do to prep them first. We'll do this process using Lightroom and maybe a little bit of Photoshop, and then we'll go from there. So I see some folks jumping in the room already. Hello, Victoria. Hello, was that Elzir? Evil Cerise, I'd be disappointed if you weren't here. Welcome, everyone. Hello, 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 and welcome to this live stream. All right, guys, like I said, for those of you just jumping in, today we're going to be talking about how you can contribute your images to Adobe Stock and what you might do to them first before you contribute them. I'm going to work with some recent portraits that I took on a recent shoot specifically for Adobe Stock, meaning that I had these images in mind when I created them to be put on Adobe Stock. And we'll talk about the ins and outs of what you need for that. And so I'll answer some questions right off the bat. So hello, Bruno, and hello, 57 Sapik from Holland, and everyone else in the room. So some of the questions that come up right off the bat are, hey, do I need to be a Creative Cloud member to submit to Adobe Stock? Do I have to be a special kind of photographer to submit? Do I need any special requirements to submit? And the answer to those questions are no, no, and no. All you need is an Adobe ID. It doesn't have to be a paid Adobe ID, meaning a Creative Cloud plan, but you do need an Adobe ID to log into the site. And you can, of course, create an Adobe ID from scratch. The site that you're going to go to log in is contributor.stock.adobe.com. That's where you're going to do it. We're going to go there in a few minutes anyway, so you'll see it. But that's really all you do is you get started from that point, and that's where you would go to create your account. That's where you would go to get started, and that's where you would go to submit photos. Now, you also have the ability of submitting photos and videos within the Adobe application. So if you're a Creative Cloud member and you've got access to Lightroom and Bridge, you can submit your images from Lightroom or Bridge. And if you are using Premiere Pro, you can submit videos from Premiere Pro. So whether you upload them directly on the site or use FTP, or whether you upload them directly from within an Adobe application, you can contribute either way. I, of course, prefer to do it from Lightroom, since that's where my photos are anyway. It saves me the extra steps of having to export them out and then just go to a website just to put them back in again. I can do it all from Lightroom. So with that said, let's pop over to the computer so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I've got Lightroom CC here with a few select images that I want to be able to contribute. I may not get to all of these today, but we're going to talk about some ins and outs and things you need to look for when you're going to contribute or when you're going to create images in the first place. So one of the things that I find to be successful, especially for using or submitting your images to stock, is using or having negative space or copy space. So Mark's asking a good question, and Mark, I took this for granted, so sorry I didn't answer this right off the bat. He says, do we get paid if someone uses our photo and video? Absolutely you do. You get a commission of 33% of whatever the sell price was. So that price can vary based on the photos or the videos. Videos sell for a lot more, so you'll make more money on videos than you ever will on photos. But people tend to buy a lot more photos than they do videos, so it balances itself out. I tend to contribute both. That way it balances itself out. I might sell a video every blue moon and sell photos every day, but when that video sale comes in, cha-ching, it's a happy day because 33% of a video sale is a lot more than 33% of 33% of a photo sale versus 35% of a video sale. They are different. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and pop in and take a look. And before I get there, let me just do one more thing. Let me show you the site. So again, this is the site you're going to head to when you want to sign up. It's contributor.stock.adobe.com. And Evil Cerise, if you can go ahead and put that in the chat, that'd be great. Contributor.stock.adobe.com. That's where you're going to go to get started. I've already got an account. I'm already logged in. So like I said, I could just hit upload right here and upload them via a web browser. Thank you. I knew you would handle that. I could upload them right here from your web browser, or I could do it through my traditional workflows using my Adobe products. All right, so with that said, what's up, Daniel? How are you? Let's go ahead and take a look at one of the photos I'm interested in right here. Now, I took this photo on purpose. She's holding one of those old-style film cameras. I left some copy space on the left-hand side so that if someone were to buy this image and they wanted to put their marketing message on it, they've got room to do that. Normally, I would shoot a lot more cropped in and closer to the subject, but when I'm shooting for stock, I have to think about what the image might be used for. And the better you are at that, what the image might be used for, the more successful you'll be at stock. You have to stop thinking of it necessarily from a photographer standpoint and think of it more from a marketer standpoint. What could my image be used in an ad campaign, or an ad, or a magazine, or a blog post? You know, what kinds of things could I submit that would get those kinds of uses? When you start thinking down that path, you start creating content along those lines, you'll be much more successful at it than just taking random portraits. Also, people tend to buy images where there's a prop involved, like the camera, or holding something, or standing by something, or using something, versus the person just standing there looking nice. Standing there looking nice sells too, but standing there looking nice, holding or using something sells usually more. So you'll learn all of that as you go along, because as you start to submit things, you'll start to see which of your images are selling better than others. All right. Good. Ant and Iajo, these are good things. What is a Fotolia account? Just signing up now. Fotolia account is what Adobe Stock used to be. You can bypass that. You don't have a Fotolia account. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what it is. So only the people that had the older Fotolia accounts need to worry about that. You can skip that part and just keep going. All right, next up, let's go ahead and go back to that photo. Now, so I'm going to start the process the way I normally would do it. There's a couple things before I submit this photo that I need to take care of. Number one, if you're going to submit a photo of a person, you need a recognizable person, I should say. You need a signed model release from every recognizable face in that frame. So her face is recognizable. She would know who she is. We can see that that's a person. So I have her signed model release, and away we go. The next thing is that I need to be aware of brands in the photo. So like, for example, people wear branded gear all the time, Nike logos and hats and things like that. All of that is no-go. In other words, you can't sell an image on stock that has already got someone else's brand in it. So you can either A, remove those brands before you take the picture, B, remove those brands in post after you take the picture. I also like to get rid of things that could cause a potential maybe branding issue, like she's got a tattoo on her shoulder. That's technically someone's art. So while I have a model release from her, I don't necessarily have a model release from the tattoo artist. So just remove the tattoo, then I don't have to worry about it. This camera is old, out of production. Probably the company's long gone, but there's some writing on the front of it. I need to get rid of that too, just in case. Just so I don't have those potential problems. So those are the kinds of things you want to think about when you're going to look at your images and what you'd be looking for to submit them to stock. So before we get to any of that, because those are things I'm going to have to do in Photoshop, I'm in Lightroom already. Let's look at some things I want to do from Lightroom first. So first and foremost, I typically want to take the image into the Develop module, and I want to do some basic things to it that I would do to any image. First and foremost, I would go into my lens correction and make sure that I've enabled the profile correction for this image. In other words, with it off, there would tend to be some bowing and bending in the image. That's caused by any lens that you're going to shoot with. And also, depending on which lens I shot this with, probably my 70-200, yep, there could be some vignetting around the edges, so that clears that up as well. The edges could be a little darker without that enabled. So that takes care of that. The next thing I tend to want to do is, before I forget, I'll just run a quick sharpen on it. These are Lightroom sharpening non-destructive effects. So they aren't as I don't want to say noticeable, but they aren't as hard or they aren't as extreme, I'll put it that way, as maybe some of the sharpening you might do in Photoshop. I usually like to do it just so I don't forget. The next thing, I'll take a look at the histogram and see if there are any areas, like for example, as I hover over this highlight or this shadow warning, it's letting me know that everything in blue right now is completely black. There's no pixel data whatsoever in that area. So I'm going to zoom in so I can show you what I'm doing. Each one of these areas in the histogram is draggable. So I'm in the blacks area, which is where the problem is. And I've got the little double arrow there. I can drag a little to the right until hopefully that problem goes away. So the triangle is no longer white, meaning the warning's gone. So I've recovered the detail in those shadow areas. And the same thing for the highlights. If there was a white highlight warning, I would drag the whites of the image to the left, which would be the same thing, by the way, as dragging the slider. You notice the black slider move? If I were to drag up here, which I don't need to, but if I were, the white slider would move. So you can do it on the sliders or the histogram. I like to do it on histogram since I'm already there, and the fact that I will see the warning go away as I do it while I'm dragging in that spot. All right, if there was a white balance concern, meaning that she looked too warm or too cold, or I need to sample and get a better white balance, I would affect that as well. People tend to look better a little warmer, so I might adjust the temperature up on this one just a little bit to the right, just to warm her skin tones up just a little bit more. And vibrance, she's got on this nice floral pattern on the sleeve of her shirt. She's got some red lipstick on, the hairpins. Those could all be a little bit more vibrant. Of course, you could take things too far. You could take things too low. So just a little bit of vibrance usually never hurts any image, but you'd also have to worry about, is that affecting your histogram again? Okay, so now that those simple, basic things have been done, also if there were anything that needed to be cropped, I would go ahead and crop the parts of the image that need to be cropped. So this image doesn't need to be cropped, so I don't need to do anything there as well. All right, so with that said, I've got the image kind of ready to go from a from a Lightroom perspective, but to get rid of the tattoo and to get rid of maybe some of the potential writing on the camera, those are things for Photoshop. So you can either Command or Control E, or right click and say edit in Photoshop. And that will take, in this case, it's a raw file, so it's going to open up a copy of the raw file in Photoshop. If it were the JPEG, it would ask me if I want to open a copy or the original, but raw files will always make a copy anyway. All right, so now let's go ahead and zoom into that shoulder there. It says life always something. And again, I don't know or don't care what the something is, but I do need to remove it just in case the people that review my stock image over at Adobe Stock would say, hey, that might be a copyrighted thing. The art or the slogan or any of that could be copyrighted. And just because it's not really adding any value to the photo anyway, there's no sense in having it there. So I'm using the patch tool to just go ahead and patch that out. And there's a little bit of a dark spot there. So just removing that part of the photo that could potentially cause a copyright issue. I don't think it would, because there's not enough of the tattoo to be identified anyway, but why risk it? Again, the tattoo doesn't add anything. Now, while I'm here, I can do a little cleanup of any blemishes or things that, like, makeup that might have run down or anything like that. I would just go ahead and do some minor retouching. So when people say, hey, do I need to retouch my images before I submit them to Adobe Stock? No, you don't need to, but it's not a bad idea not to do it. In other words, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and do it. All right, so now we're on this camera. Again, this ancient old camera, and I can see this box Tingor, which sounds like a brand name to me. I don't know it by heart. These look like settings, the M and the T, so they were probably okay. There's some stuff on the front of it I really can't identify. There's something on the lens there that looks like that could be a brand name for a lens. So those are the kinds of things that just kind of need to go, because I don't know if they're protected by copyright or not, and why take the chance. So because of what it could do is just, it could either get by, meaning that the moderator either didn't think it was an issue or didn't care, or not didn't care, but you know what I mean. Didn't think it was an issue or didn't notice it, or it gets through and then causes a problem later down the line because it got through and someone says, hey, that's my camera brand. You can't sell that on stock. So rather than having any of those issues, I'd just rather go ahead and patch this stuff out of here. And that way, it's a no brand camera from the past that doesn't have any visible branding on it. Now, it doesn't have to be perfectly clean in this area because the camera's already pretty ancient and old anyway. So it's not like what I'm doing here kind of quickly and not really doing a fantastic job of it is going to really matter much. Now, those are just numbers. I think those will be okay. I don't know what this says, but I'm not going to take the chance. And I don't know what this says. I'm not going to take the chance. All right. And I don't know what this says. I'm not going to take the chance. They're probably just numbers. They're probably okay. But I'm not going to worry about it. And the M and the T, like I said, I think those are, I don't know, manual, maybe telephoto. I have no idea what those would be, but they're gone now. Everything else is gone, so it should be good to go. All right. Hi. I sell my illustration on Adobe Stock. Everyone else. Okay, good question. So, hey, I sell my images or illustrations on Adobe Stock. Could I also sell it for t-shirt printing and for customers and other stock places and so forth and so on? The answer to all of that is yes, because when you sell on Adobe Stock, you're not selling exclusively, and you still own the copyright to the image, and you still own the image. So when you put something on Adobe Stock, that doesn't mean it's exclusive to Adobe Stock. You can go sell it anywhere else you want as well, including other stock content houses. We do not make you sign any kind of exclusivity agreements. Okay, now the only other thing is just kind of a personal pet peeve. I noticed there's a little poof, like a little poof in her hair, a little thing sticking up there. Could I submit it as is? Sure. But again, it's a pet peeve of mine, so let's go ahead and take care of that while we're here. Filter, liquify, and we're just going to go ahead and just push that down a bit. And just take that poof and make it not poof up. All right, there we go. That was it. And now once I save this image, I have my preference set to save it as a PSD, so it will save it back to Lightroom as a Photoshop, if I had layers, a layered file, next to the original DNG. So they're in a collection. I don't need them both in the same collection. Here's the edited one. Here's the one that's unedited. So if you want to see a quick before and after, there's the before, there's the after. Again, we didn't do a ton to it. Got rid of the tattoo, got rid of the poof, got rid of some of the writing on the front of the camera that could be an issue later, and that's about it. All right. So now I can just simply take the original DNG and just remove it from the collection. Still in Lightroom, just not in this collection anymore. All right, so that's one that's going to be ready to go. I'm going to move this one over for now. The next one I want to work on, I kind of like this one a lot. Let me go ahead and look at it. I'm not really seeing any potential copyright issues. I'm not seeing any potential like anything that really needs to be retouched. I like the lens because that will give the person maybe something to put inside that lens that the person's looking at in the telescope there. So I kind of like that for a stock image. The flower is not a problem. There's no branding on the telescope. There's no branding on the strap. There's really nothing that really needs to go to Photoshop for this. So again, I would just do my usual due diligence in the develop module, which I've done a lot of this already. Enable the lens profile, make sure we're not clipping any of the shadows, make sure we've sharpened, and that's pretty much it. It's like this one doesn't need to go to Photoshop. This one's ready to go as is. Now, we got another one here. Let's go to this one here. I like this image. I've submitted one similar to it already. The only thing I don't like about it is the hourglass is kind of at an angle. So this would be a cropping scenario. So let's go to the crop tool, just hit the letter R, and I could either rotate it manually to kind of get it straightened the way I want. That would be pretty much it. Or I could use the angle tool and get it perfectly straight. So I just grab the angle tool over here on the right-hand side, and what I'm going to do with the angle tool is pick like maybe one of the posts on the hourglass here, and say that I would like that to be perfectly straight up and down. And then it will make that perfectly straight up and down. So I know the rest of the image is straight now. All right. I don't see any branding issues. I don't see the tattoo. I don't see anything on the hourglass that would be an issue. I see some little poofs over here on the sweater. So let's go ahead and just, pet peeve of mine, let's go ahead and take care of those. Hourglass is back. All right, so let's go again back into, I didn't mean to do that, liquify, undo. Go into a new liquify. And just, again, these are just, I don't like seeing wrinkled clothes that don't have to be wrinkled. So this is just my own little thing. Not going to make a difference one way or the other for your submission to stock. This is, again, a personal pet peeve. All right. Just taking some of these wrinkles out that don't need to be in here and aren't really adding any value to the image. There we go. All right, the rest I'm okay with. I'm not going to be that picky. The rest is good. Okay, click OK on that and save it. Close it, switch back to Lightroom, and we now have them both there. Get rid of the original from this collection, and now we've got the sunglasses. Let's see this one. This now, starting to see something on the shirt, but there's not enough of it there to worry about. Let's go into the glasses to make sure there's no branding on the rims themselves. Those are okay. And the fact that she's looking down at something, the marketer could use that, you know, to show her one way or the other. And let's go to this next one. This next one I know has an issue. The issue here is there's something in the lens of the glasses. It looks like a brand that's starting to wear off, but there's something of it still there. So again, and the stock moderators are always going to zoom into your image, so don't think you can get away with, oh, that's so small, no one would see it. Yeah, they'll see it. All right, so again, we'll do our quick couple of things here. We'll go in and we'll say that we want to take this into the develop module. We'll sharpen it. Lens correction and profiles have been applied. Vibrance has been applied. We'll correct for that. We'll see where the highlight, so the highlight's being blown out on a reflection in the rim. I'm not so worried about that, but we were able to correct it. So now there is a little bit of detail in there. Okay, so now we go to Photoshop, Command E or right click. That will take us, even out the eyes. Again, this is not for a photographer standpoint, this is from a stock standpoint. So if you thought, you know, would they buy this image because the eyes weren't evened out? I don't think that would be as much of an issue as it would be for us being picky photographers. If you thought it was an issue, then by all means, go ahead and correct it. All right, so again, this branding could be an issue. I don't know what that really is. It looks like part of a name that we don't want to have there anymore. So we're just going to do a quick selection here. I'm working on my Wacom Cintiq using the patch tool. And we'll just go ahead and pull that in. And now, of course, you could, you know, while you're here, it's not going to hurt you to do a little cleanup of the lenses themselves, although in most cases, the marketer is going to put something else in those lenses anyway. That's why I'm not really worried about what's being reflected into them. I've seen what they do with stock images of sunglasses, and they just put all kinds of things in them anyway. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time cleaning this up. Now, if I was using this in my portfolio, yeah, all this would have to be cleaned up. For me to really want to use this. I'll get rid of a couple of those little extra hairs there. And we'll just check the other side. I don't see any branding on the other side, so we're good. The rest of that's okay. Okay. Now again, while we're here, since we are in Photoshop, we can take the sharpen tool and we can sharpen up those earrings a bit and apply a little sharpening on the lips, sharpen earrings, sharpen any of the jewelry or anything that's gold, just make it stand out, pop a little bit more. No big wrinkles to get rid of, no poofs of hair to straighten out. The hair coming down the back's okay. I'm okay with the hair on the other side as well, again for stock. And we'll zoom out. Where I zoomed out, we'll save, we'll close. So, in other words, your image got rejected. Yes, if your image got rejected for copyright issues, you can fix it and just re-upload it, but if you could fix it up front, saves you that extra step. And sometimes you miss it. Sometimes you don't see it and it gets rejected. And you're like, oh man, I didn't see that logo, and then you go ahead and fix it. But why risk it if you can go ahead and take care of it right off the bat? All right, here's one. Here's another one that I did not do anything with yet. No branding there. No tattoo there. All right, so we've already taken it through the other paces. It's already gotten a sharpening from earlier, but just in case. And we'll go ahead and open this one up in Photoshop, do a couple things to it. And now that we're in Photoshop, we'll go ahead and zoom in. I just want to check the telescope itself looks okay. And again, just for some of that minor retouching stuff that we would do to any portrait. Some of those blemishes that we all have. Now, another particular of mine is if there are no earrings, I get rid of the holes in the ears, because if they don't have earrings in them, then they're just holes. So why have them if they're not currently in use? All right, get rid of some of the lines on the neck there. Looks good from a stock perspective. Keep in mind that while it's great to have an image that's kind of ready to go for the campaign, if it's going to be used for something major and something important anyway, they're going to retouch it to their liking anyway. So that's why I don't spend a ton of time retouching images for stock. I get them acceptable, but not perfect, if there is such a thing. All right, so I'm happy with the rest. Click OK, save, close. And all right, so now we're back to Lightroom. I'm not gonna worry about the first three. Let's see, I just want to point out one thing here, see if I can find it real quick. Nope, not on that one, not on that one. All right, here's the one. So, see that little B there? That would have to go because these are Beats headphones. Now, even if you got rid of the B or the B was being covered up, be prepared that certain things can still be rejected, even if there is no visible logo. Because if it's something that's so identifiable by the shape or the size or the color, or, in other words, you know what it is when you look at it. You know an iPhone when you look at it, even though you don't see the Apple logo. Sometimes things can be rejected for that reason. So if Beats headphones are that identifiable, even without the logo, then this could still get rejected. But it would definitely get rejected if that B were still there. So that would be one of those things where you would remove that if you're going to submit this file. Okay. All right, so let's take the ones we've got so far. Let's get rid of this extra one. So we've got these that are ready to go. Now, what do we do to get these uploaded? Like I said, you can export out JPEGs and go to the website and upload them that way, and that just creates extra work. There is integration in Bridge, Lightroom, and Premiere Pro to upload directly to Adobe Stock. So once you get your account set up in Lightroom, all you would do is come over to the Adobe Stock Publish module. You would click on it or right-click on it, and it walks you through a simple setup, just really making sure you are answering like the 4 questions you answered when you set up your account. You're over 18, you are uploading things you own, so forth and so on. Once you click OK, that will create this empty collection. Mine's not empty, but yours will be empty. Then you would take those images that are ready to go and drag them into that collection. Now they can come from anywhere. They can come from any other collection, or any other folder, and you can drag them in as many as you want. And it's not, oh, you know what? Let me undo that real quick. Because one more thing we're going to do first. It's not duplicating them. It's not, they're just in another collection. But before I put mine in that collection, what I tend to do first is create what's called a virtual copy. It's a Lightroom specific feature. You don't have to create a virtual copy. I'll explain why I do it. The reason I create a virtual copy before I put them in the collection, and I'll show you where that is, it's under Photo, Create Virtual Copies, and they don't take up any extra space. That's why they're called virtual copies. You can identify the virtual copy versus the original because it will be the one with the little dog ear, the little page turned up. Those are the virtual copies. I put the virtual copies in because that way if I add keywords, if I add titles, if I do things that are specific for stock, I'm not messing up the originals or the edited ones that may be going in other places, portfolios and things like that. So I make virtual copies that are specifically for stock. Just an extra step I do, not required. It's just I keep my sanity that way. So that way, if I put in my own titles right here in Lightroom, those titles are only for those virtual copies, not the original. So for example, I could say, I wouldn't do the same one for each one. So let's say we'll call this one Explorer Girl. Okay, I don't have a better way to say that. Woman with camera. Woman with old camera. All right. Nope, not the original, the virtual copy. Explorer lady instead of girl. How about that? With telescope. Now, how important are the titles? They're not that important from a stock perspective. What these titles are for is for your SEO, for your search engine optimization. So if someone were to search for Explorer woman with telescope on Google, for example, your image might come up on Adobe Stock. So it's not affecting the Adobe Stock search, it's affecting searches outside of Adobe Stock. So that's what the titles are for here. Woman with hourglass. All right, and we'll do these two the same. Female model with sunglasses. All right. So I've seen titles that are very short. I've seen titles that are very long. I've seen titles that have just about anything and everything in them. Pretty woman with sunglasses standing on the beach looking at the sunset. I've seen titles that could be that long. Like I said, it's really for the chance that if someone searches the web and find your image that, hey, they might come across your image and then want to buy it. But it's not going to affect your Adobe Stock searches per se. All right, so now that I've got the images titled, I will go ahead now and drag the virtual copies into Adobe Stock. And I don't need the virtual copies in here anymore. I can hit delete and get rid of them. So you don't need them in both places. I don't need them in the original collection. I only need them in Adobe Stock. And deleting them from the original collection does not delete them from Adobe Stock. So they're in the Adobe Stock collection, ready to be submitted or published. I'm going to go ahead and hit publish at this point. And what that is doing behind the scenes is, or in the background, I should say, not behind the scenes, we kind of see it doing it, but in the background, it is making high-res JPEGs. It is doing the upload to Adobe Stock all for you. So you don't have to do your export. You don't have to do anything extra. It's doing all the work for you. That's why I like doing it from Lightroom. And it's cleaning up after itself when it's done. So I won't have all these JPEGs on my hard drive anymore from those original files, because once they're uploaded there, it clears out as temporary files. Okay, once it's done doing the upload, you still are not, your images are on Adobe Stock, but they're not yet ready to be sold. There's still a couple more steps you have to do. The approval process with Adobe Stock is so much faster than Adobe other stock services I use. I love it. Well, thank you, Ant. I love it too. It has gotten much, much faster. It used to be anywhere from, it still can be, anywhere from 5 to 7 or 11 days. Now, in most cases, it happens in 1 or 2 days. All right, so now it says, hey, 6 images select or successfully uploaded. Go to Adobe Stock to complete your submission and start selling. So when I do that, it will take me over to the website, and it will take me to the area where I can now begin the process or finish the process of keywording, categorizing, and attaching model releases. All right, so first and foremost, when you click on an image, notice like this image is already selected, and notice that it says it has 25 keywords. What? Where'd those come from? Those are put in automatically for you by Adobe Sensei, our artificial intelligence technology that will go through your image, compare it to other images that are similar on Adobe Stock, compare it to those keywords, and add them in for you. Keywording is also the biggest pain in the butt for doing anything on stock, having to keyword every single image. Now, although it's artificial intelligence, it doesn't always get it right, so you still will have to check each one, but it's done the bulk of the work for you. You don't have to start from scratch putting your keywords in. Now, why didn't it put in the ones for the rest? Because it only puts them in when you click on it. That's when it actually looks at the image, puts the keywords in, and I think now it apparently defaults to 25 because put 25 in for every single, oh, no, 20 in that case. 25 maximum maybe. All right, so it's put in all the keywords, and again, I still need to go in and check them out to make sure that those keywords are keywords that make sense. So sometimes it will guess completely wrong. Most times it will guess really good keywords. Sometimes it will guess keywords that are like way off. And so those you either replace or delete. Also, sometimes you may have your own keywords that you say, hey, it didn't guess the 3 or 4 or 5 that I want to put in. I want to put in my own as well. So you can put in your own. Now, one bit of warning. Notice I put the titles in Lightroom and they came across, female with sunglasses. You can put keywords in Lightroom too, and they will come across. If you put them in Lightroom, it will not use Adobe Sensei. So in other words, let's say I had put in 10 of my own keywords in Lightroom and import or uploaded this image, then all I would see is my 10 keywords. It would not put its own in by default. So it's kind of you choose. Do you want, I like Sensei to put its own in first, Adobe Sensei. And then if I see ones I want to add, I add them after the fact. As opposed to me putting in 10 and then only, getting just my 10 when there's some I might have forgotten. All right, is grape better than grapes for keywording? I've seen it do a few of my shots this way, plural versus singular, doesn't matter. Well, it really only would matter if you thought the search would matter. In other words, if it was a bowl of grapes, I'd probably want both keywords, grape for singular and grapes for plural, because that way if someone just didn't put the S in, or no, they put the S in and there was a in other words, that way I'm covered if they're both in there. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference because if they search grape, your image with plural grapes would still probably come up, but it can't hurt putting them both in, putting both grape and grapes in. What can hurt you is putting keywords in that have nothing to do with your image. For example, this woman with sunglasses putting in keyword car. There's no car involved in this image. Here's why that hurts you. Because one day, someone's going to search for a car. And let's say your image pops up because you put the keyword in, trying to be slick. Hey, I'm going to cover all the bases, no matter what. Someone's going to find my image. Well, what you've just done now is you've frustrated that person. Because they're searching for an image of a car or something to do with a car, and your image of this model comes up with sunglasses on. Has nothing to do with a car. So what will happen eventually is your image keeps coming up, and no one buys it because it's really not what they're looking for. And the rank of your image continues to go down in the background. So now it's no longer coming up in the searches because the artificial intelligence engine behind us saying there must be something wrong with this image because every time it comes up, no one ever buys it. So the worst thing you can do is put in keywords that aren't relevant to your image. Putting in multiple keywords, plural, all of that, breaking words apart, putting words together is nowhere near as bad as putting in keywords that don't really relate to your image. All right, so let's go look at these keywords. All right, so let's see. Sunglasses, woman, glasses. See sunglasses and glasses, they both are relevant. Portrait, young, fashion, beauty, white face, isolated, meaning she's on an isolated background. Happy, I mean, does she really look happy? If I'm searching for happy and this image came up, would I really want to buy this one? Does she really look like she's extremely happy, smiling and laughing? No. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. Is she smiling? Well, I guess that counts as a smile. Is she a child? No. She's someone's child, but she's not a child. Model, yes. Person, hair, people. She's not a boy. So this is what I mean by sometimes Adobe Sensei will not guess it right. Close up, fun. I guess that could be fun, cute, glamour, expression, studio. Okay, the rest I'm okay with. If there's anything else I'd want to add, maybe the word purple, since she's wearing purple lipstick. Pink. Hairpins, because she is wearing hairpins. I don't know if hairpins is one word or two. Let's see. It's one word, okay. Earrings. So, you can see that's what I mean. So there are certain things it won't get or won't guess. All right, so we'll get to the model release in a moment. All right, let's go to the next one. Same kind of deal here. So it's really about going through and making sure that there aren't keywords in here that don't, yeah, she is looking, she has an expression. I wouldn't necessarily call it happy. I wouldn't even call that fun. Cool. There's no music involved there. She's not listening to headphones. Glamour, cute, black, she is wearing a black sweater, so forth and so on. So in this case, red lips, hairpins. All right, the rest is cool. Okay. You're welcome, Catalin. All right, so same thing here. Now, let's get to this one. I knew it would guess wrong, because it doesn't know what that hourglass is. It's not a common object. So there's a glass there. I'm going to go ahead and change it to hourglass because that's what it really is. There's no drinking involved. There's no, because see, it thinks it's a bottle of alcohol. There's no alcohol involved. There is some red there. There's no party involved. There's no champagne involved because it mistakenly thought that was some kind of alcohol she's holding. So that's why you still need to go through and check the keywords to make sure. I wouldn't necessarily call her a brunette either. You need to make sure that it's not guessing bad keywords or keywords that will ultimately hurt you because of the ranking. Now, notice that there are 5 keywords in blue and then the rest are in gray. Your first 5 matter the most. So I would say woman, hourglass, young, beauty. I don't know that red would necessarily be one of my top 5 anyway. I'll put it that way. All right, let's say I'll put pretty up there. All right, so we'll just do any one of the above except for red. Already have red. I could put flowers because she's got flowers on her shirt, but I don't know if I would put that in because it's just kind of a waste of a keyword. All right, next. Now see, again, it doesn't know that that's a telescope, so it thinks it's a camera. So it is, in this case, just change the word camera to telescope. She's not a photographer. I'm going to put explorer instead. It's not really a glass necessarily, so let's get rid of that one. Magnifying, I can kind of see. Lens, I could kind of see. Looking, person, photo, not a child. Isolated, yes. Yes. Detective, that could hold. Holding, magnifier, 1, human. Searching, I like searching, so I'm going to shoot searching up to the top because that's a more relevant keyword. I saw something with photography that can go. I'm going to shoot detective up to the top, so I'm going to kind of put that near my top 5. So I'm going to put telescope, woman, searching, explorer. Those will be my top 5. And yeah, detective. Okay. All right, next up, let's go in and go to the next one. See the 15 remaining. There's no violin, no musician, no music. Fashion person, right? There's no microphone. Shoot that up to the top. There's no instrument involved. There's no, because it thinks that's a microphone. So there's no singing involved. There's no trumpet involved. I could see it making that mistake. Yes, we're in a studio. The rest is fine. All right, so now let's get them in a better order. Telescope. Let's put Explorer up there as well. Pull that one down there. All right, the rest I'm okay with. And again, if I thought there would be, like in this case, the flowers are more prevalent. Red lips. And again, you can, of course, always add more. Now we get to the one that actually is a camera, not a child. Woman, young, gift. See, it thinks that's a gift box. It's a camera instead. Cute, isolated, those are fine. Person, not necessarily happy. Box I'm okay with. Little, smiling. Holding, not a kid. People, present. Did we get camera? Yeah, we got camera. How about old camera? Film, camera. Red face. Photographer, probably be another good one. Copy space is always a good one. I could use for all of those. What else? So let's get photographer up there near the top. In the top 5, I should say. Woman, photographer, camera, old camera. Probably put that one near in the top 5. And probably put film camera up there. All right, those being my top 5. The rest, it doesn't matter what order they're in. Get rid of present. Get rid of book. Hair, red. All right, so we've got our keyword. Can you copy and paste multiple keywords in? Yes, you can if they're separated by commas. So if you had a list of keywords, paste them into one box. When you hit tab, it will put them in the rest of the boxes for you. There is a limit to how many, though. I can't remember, like, because the field can only hold so many letters. But yes, you can. Are these single words only, or can they be descriptive 2 to 3 words? They could be 2 to 3, but keep in mind, like for example, a good example is African American. That's 2 words. By themselves, they're really not the same thing, because the person may not be from Africa, even though they may be an American. So those would be 2 words I would put together. 3 words, I guess, if it really were the search term. In other words, don't put 2 or 3 words together if it's not 2 or 3 words that people would search on. All right, so now that we've got those in there, let's go ahead and select all of these, because they all have a recognizable person or property, in this case a person. So is there a recognizable person? Yes, there is. So now you have a choice. You either can search for an existing model release if you've used this person before, or create a new one. And one of the new ways, I'm glad I'm doing this video because I haven't showed this since it came out, is you can use Adobe Sign, which is built in now. So for example, this is pretty cool. It allows you, as a photographer, to get that signed model release without the person necessarily being right in front of you. You can set it up with Adobe Sign, put in the person's email address of who it needs to be sent to. It will automatically send it to them, give them instructions on how to digitally sign it. Once they digitally sign it and hit submit, it's on Adobe Stock. You get a copy of it, they get a copy of it, and then you're ready to go, because the model release criteria or requirement will have been satisfied at that point. I don't do it that way because I just, there's one more thing I got to chase down. In other words, if the person doesn't sign it right away, I got to wait and all that. I'd rather have them do it right in front of me. So you can upload one. If you had them sign a physical one, you can upload a JPEG. Or if you use a digital signature, like I use an app to do it, I can export the JPEG and upload it that way. The ones that you have them sign in front of you or the ones that you have them sign in an app do need to be witnessed. The ones that use Adobe Sign don't need to be witnessed. So that's one more thing to think about, that you would need a third person to sign it, you, the subject, and the witness, if it's one of these manual ways. If it's Adobe Sign, you don't need a third person. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start finding this person. There she is. So I've got her model release all set for all of those now. And if there were multiple people, I would just keep adding multiple releases. So with that said, thank you. All right. my assistant told me that I'm blocking your view with the webcam. No one told me. All right, anyway, so this is, I'll go through it one more time real quick. So in this case, you can search for an existing release or create one on the fly. You can create one on the fly using Adobe Sign, which I talked about. So basically just go through the process and it will email it to them, or you can upload one via a JPEG image. In this case, I already have one for this person, so I just did a search, typed in that person's name, and it came up, and now I got green check marks on all the ones that are ready to submit because they all are matching everything they need. So they've got a title, they've got at least 5 keywords, they've got a category, they've got, I've answered the question whether it needs a model release or not. It did, and I've given it the model release. All right, absolutely no one. Sorry, Cerise, if I didn't see you say that. Anyway, yeah, sometimes I forget to look and see what you guys are seeing. All right, ready to submit. That's it. If I hit submit for approval right now, then the next thing that pops up is, are you sure? Yep, I'm sure. I want to submit all 6 of these. Then they are submitted and they are now in review. You can't do anything else with them until they are approved or declined. In other words, I can't say, ooh, I forgot to add a keyword that I really wanted to add. Now you can delete it and then re-upload it, but you can't change it until it's been approved. Once it's been approved, then you can add or change the keywords after the fact, which is kind of nice. That wasn't always the case. And that's it. Once you get that email, you'll get an email for every single one letting you know it's been approved or declined. And if it's been declined, you'll get a reason. Not necessarily one that you'll always immediately know why, but you'll get a reason, meaning it might say something like intellectual property, which means most likely there was a logo or something involved in it, or you were in front of something that you didn't have the right to shoot. You'll get something that says out of focus or too blurry or too much grain, too much noise. You'll get things that will tell you if there are some artifacts or some other kinds of issues with it. Sometimes you'll get and this is kind of like being on a reality TV show for when you're a musician or something. You'll get that harsh criticism. You'll get that one that says no commercial value. That means that the team has determined, while the image may be technically correct and you've met all the requirements for the model release and property release and all that, or maybe didn't need one, it just isn't great. In other words, it just isn't an image that they think would sell. And those are kinds of things that, you got to keep in mind that while we like to have a large library of images, having a large library of images that no one likes to buy isn't doing us any favors. So we like a large library of images, videos, graphic designs, vectors that people like, that people would want to buy, that people would want to use. So I could take a picture of a box. And so in other words, unless there was something stellar about that box, or it was in some way unique, to all the other pictures of boxes that are on Adobe Stock, it may get that hard message of no commercial value. And I've gotten them. It doesn't feel good, but you know, sometimes I look at the image and I can say, yeah, I can see that. Because what you think might be a good photo may not necessarily be a good stock photo. There is a difference. All right. What else? Good. Yes, keywords are usually one word. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any of your questions. Oh, yeah, I see your, I can't see the webcam thing. Now I see it. All right. Yes, I see. Can you move the webcam? Okay, got it. Okay, I think I answered the rest. All right. Yes, using Adobe Bridge, you can add metadata as well and submit. Same kind of thing. How about skylines and skyscrapers? Yes and no. Let me see if I can find an example for you. Because there was one that I had that was declined. And I want to show you why it was declined. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Oh, hold on. I know I can find it real quick. Or at least I can find it quicker. All right, here it is. All right, let's see. All right, let's go back to the computer. So, skyline. Why was this image declined? I'll give you a few seconds to answer. Nothing to do with the quality of the image. The image is perfectly sharp. Skyline of Seattle. Why was it declined? Let's see who gets it. Nope, not already enough versions. Had nothing to do with it. Did not have a permit. Why? For what? Yes, Martin's got it. It's not so much that I took a picture of Seattle. That's fine. That big thing right in the middle almost, the Space Needle, is copyrighted. So if the Space Needle had not been in the shot, it'd be fine. Because you wouldn't even know what city it was. So it depends. Nope, had nothing to do with the uniqueness or anything. I didn't say it was declined because it was no commercial value. It was declined for another reason. And that is, someone already got it. Because of the Space Needle. The Space Needle design of it is copyrighted. And so just like, for example, the Sydney Opera House in Australia. First thing I ever tried to submit to stock was I went to Australia one time, took some pictures of it, took all kinds of pictures of it. Every single one was declined because the Sydney Opera House is copyrighted. So I did not have permission to shoot that and sell it. You can shoot it all day long, just can't sell it. So those are the things you have to think about. I was a little bummed because I really like this shot. But anyway, I was bummed out that it didn't get approved. But I understand why, so that's why. All right, same thing, the Eiffel Tower at night. I have Eiffel Tower shots in the daytime on stock all day long, but the Eiffel Tower at night has a light show. That light show is copyrighted. The Eiffel Tower is not. So those are the kinds of things you have to think about. All right, so with that said, thanks everyone for watching, and we will catch you. Yes, I would have needed to get a property release. So just like I need a model release for recognizable faces, you need a property release for recognizable buildings and structures and statues or whatever that are copyrighted. Well, the Eiffel Tower, if it is, there are plenty of stock images of the Eiffel Tower on stock. So I don't think it's so much the Eiffel Tower as it is whatever it is around it or whatever it is that's on it that might be copyrighted. All right, so with that said, Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Hope you got something out of this. Head over to contributor.stock.adobe.com to check it out. If they are, they may have had the right to do it. So you're asking, so there are no stock images of the Space Needle? No, not necessarily. They may have taken them with permission. So as long as you have a release, you can submit it. I didn't have one. All right, with that said, cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.